Hey everyone, I want to take you along with me this week to show you what we are eating on our homestead for breakfast, to give you some balanced and high protein breakfast ideas to add into your week. So we pretty much always start our morning off with the same exact smoothie. We definitely have this every weekday, sometimes on weekends as well. So this makes 2 servings with half a cup of frozen blueberries, 1 frozen banana, a big handful of spinach, a bunch of peanut butter. We like a lot of peanut butter, but you can do that to taste. And then 2 tablespoons of a smoothie powder that I mix up ahead of time, which includes dried goji berry, acai, turmeric, cacao, collagen, and cinnamon. And then we just blend that up in some of our raw milk from our dairy co-op, and then we just drink that alongside whatever breakfast I am making that particular morning. I'll go ahead and list those powders that I mentioned in the description below. So this particular morning I made something that we make really often here on the homestead. It is so easy, and it's kind of like a deconstructed omelette, or that's what I call it anyway. So basically I just saute whatever veggies I have on hand. Some of our favorites are onions, peppers, tomato, just really anything that we have. I had some peppers from our garden in our freezer, so I threw those in there, and I just saute those vegetables up until they are tender. I also had some pre-cooked bacon that I threw in this morning as well. Sometimes we do meat, sometimes we don't. And then I just scramble up about 4 or 5 eggs and season with a little salt and pepper. Add a little more butter to the skillet and pour that down in those vegetables and scramble it all up together. And it's kind of like an omelet, but kind of like scrambled eggs. And this one is high protein and really low in carbs, so it's very satiating and really helps us to stay full for a while and give us the nutrients that we need for our day. Sometimes I will add in some toast with this if we want to add a carb component to our meal, and sometimes I'll just do the eggs. It really just depends on what we're in the mood for. Next up was a classic quiche. Now I will say we actually had this for dinner one night, and then the next day or the day after we had those leftovers for breakfast, and that's a really good way to stay on top of meal prepping. If you're a breakfast person but you don't like to make breakfast casseroles, pop them in the fridge and just heat them up as needed. They are wonderful heated up, and they work just as well as leftovers as they do the first day. So anyway, I fried up some bacon, and later I crumbled that up. That's just going to go down in the quiche. And then I also shredded a large potato and diced half of an onion and added in some red pepper that I had in the fridge, and I sauteed that up in the skillet in some butter just until it was softened. I didn't want this to get crispy or anything. I just wanted the potatoes and the veggies to soften a little bit. So after those were softened, I beat about 8 eggs in a large bowl, added that crumbled up bacon and those hash browns with the vegetables to the eggs, seasoned it with some salt and pepper, and that was my filling for the quiche. I do have the full recipe for this quiche over on the blog, so check that out if you want to, but this is really just kind of giving you an idea. You can use anything that you have on hand. If you want sausage or ham instead of bacon, or if you don't even want meat, that's totally fine. Or if you have other vegetables like mushroom or spinach and that's what you want to put in there, totally fine as well. And of course, season the eggs however you like. This is just what we prefer, keeping it simple and classic. Now this next part of the quiche is optional. If I was actually making this at breakfast time, I probably would skip this, but since I was making it at dinner time, I went ahead and opted for a crust on the bottom. To make this crust, I just combined 1/2 cup of flour, 1 teaspoon of arrowroot powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 cup or half a stick of cold butter. I cut that all in really well and then added in 1/4 cup to about a half cup of starter. That will depend on how thick or how thin your sourdough starter is. You'll just want to add enough to form a dough, and then roll it out really thin and add those quiche fillings in and bake it at 350 for about an hour until everything is set and the egg should be really puffed up at the end. And of course, top it with some cheese if you want to. That is optional as well. And again, that full recipe is over on the blog if you want exact measurements and instructions. I'm taking a break from recipes to show you a little bit of our morning routine. We always start off with a pint of lemon water. I find that the more water I can drink at the beginning of the day, the more I crave it throughout the day. Plus the lemon is really good for digestion. So that's just a little tip. So next up, we have one of our favorite breakfasts going on here, and this is kind of like an avocado toast. I like to actually make mine into an avocado toast by mashing the avocado on top and adding the eggs on top of the avocado. Brad prefers to eat the components separately, so just however anybody prefers is perfectly fine for this one. But this is just a simple toast that I made from just some bread that I had on hand. And then I cut up an avocado and we split that, so half of an avocado each. Next, I scramble up 4 or 5 eggs again and season with salt and pepper and just scramble those in the skillet with some butter, and that is ready to serve. Again, you can actually form an avocado toast if everybody in your family likes it that way, or just leave it deconstructed on the plate and everybody can just eat it however they prefer. But this is really simple and one of our favorites. I find that the little bit of carb from the toast and the fat from the avocado, as well as the protein in the eggs, is one of the most balanced meals that I love to fall back on. It's very satiating and very nourishing at the same time. Next up, I have one of my favorites, and that is a very simple blueberry oatmeal. Now, I try to not make this any more than once a week because it is definitely a lot higher carb and a lot lower in protein than the other breakfasts that I've already showed you, but it is so easy to make and it is so quick. So if we are running a little behind, it's a perfect breakfast for a quick morning when we just need something really fast. So I'm actually just making one serving here. Brad was a little under the weather, so he was not enjoying these with me this morning. So for one serving, I would do anywhere from 1/4 cup to 1/3 cup of oats, a sprinkle of maple sugar, and then several dashes of cinnamon, as well as a handful of blueberries, and enough water to cover those ingredients. Then I would just simmer on the stove for about 5 minutes on low heat until everything is nice and softened. Pour that into a bowl, top with some granola if you prefer, and some more of that raw milk, and this is a delicious, warming, quick, and easy breakfast. And last but not least, I want to show you how I make my version of a protein pancake. So I like to start with blended cottage cheese. Anytime that I get cottage cheese from the store, I will just blend that with my immersion blender, and then I will use 1/2 cup of that, 2 eggs, 1/4 cup of almond butter, 1/4 cup of arrowroot powder, and 1/2 cup of applesauce. I'll stir that all really well. I will add a little bit of milk if I need to thin it down a little bit to more of a pancake batter consistency, and then I will fry that in a hot cast iron skillet until there are several little bubbles in the pancake, and then I will flip it and fry for about another minute on the other side. Top with some butter and just a drizzle of maple syrup, and these are some really delicious grain-free protein pancakes that we like to have through the week. We'll of course splurge and have some regular pancakes or sourdough pancakes on the weekend, but these are a great option if you are trying to get some balanced meals in through the week. So I hope these gave you some ideas, and I hope you decide to try some of these in your own kitchen. Be sure to comment below and let us know what your favorite weekday breakfasts are, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and consider subscribing to follow along with our journey towards a wholesome, self-sufficient, and handcrafted life. Hope you all have a lovely weekend, and I will see you all next week. Bye, friends.